Hall & Wilcox acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and to all First Nations people joining us today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Cultural Inclusion podcast. This season is called What's in a Name? I'm Shaln Idowu, a partner at Hall & Wilcox, and I'm delighted to be your host. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Sonia Sawant, a managing lawyer of the Therapeutic Courts team at Victoria Legal Aid, where she's worked for the last decade in various roles across metro and regional offices. Sonia, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. My first time being on a podcast, so thank you.
First, but not the last, I'm sure. Sonia, we'll get straight into it. The podcast season is called What's in a Name? And I know that you're particularly committed to fostering cultural capability in the legal profession and creating safe, respectful spaces for clients. Why do you think it's important to take the effort to say and spell people's names correctly?
Absolutely. I think from my perspective, it's more about validating and recognizing someone's identity. And I think for me, at least, the name is, aside from the face, when you meet someone, the face is probably the first thing you associate with someone, but their name is the next thing that you associate. It defines who they are, how they identify themselves. So getting that right shows that you recognize it and that you respect them for it.
And do you find in your career, the work that you do now, do you find that some of your clients have felt minimized or not respected for their names, or that people haven't taken the time and effort to get it right?
Yes, it is changing a little bit. And, I can recognize with the courts, for example, they are making that effort. They've got now practice directions in terms of how you pronounce names and how to get people to tell you how to pronounce their names and spell it. But when I first started as a criminal lawyer in particular a decade ago, it was slightly different. Like the people were still on their journey and had a lot of clients. I've represented clients from different diverse backgrounds, and there were a lot of them who felt that they were used to not being recognized in that way. So they were used to people misspelling their name. They were used to being mispronounced all the time. And, what we hear, there's this name fatigue, like they're tired of constantly correcting people. So what I would see people doing, and I've done it myself, where you just give up and you're like, it's fine. You can just call me whatever. Like people would always respond that way to say, just say whatever. It's fine. We'll just move on. Yeah.
Absolutely, because you don't want to have the 5-minute dance of actually it's pronounced like this, now you're saying this, but you're getting further and further away from what the actual topic that you're meant to be discussing is. So you just skip over it.
That's right.
And do you find it's the same? So that's your clients. Is it the same with your colleagues, with your peers?
Yes, absolutely. So it was a similar journey back then as well. And it's changing a little again right now. But it was similar with name fatigue. So when you would go into court, for example, I have seen colleagues of mine. So my surname, I feel lucky. My name definitely is easy to pronounce, and it seems quite Western. And my last name, the way that I pronounce it is something that people can easily say. So I haven't had that much difficulty myself. But I have seen colleagues where it might seem like it's difficult to pronounce, or it will require someone to not think like an English speaker to say it and get it right. They have struggled, and same thing when they would get onto their feet and they were before the magistrate or a judge and they've mispronounced their surname, they wouldn't even interfere or correct them. They would just move on. And we sitting in the body of the court, the ones who knew how to pronounce that name, would recognize that and see that the counsel hasn't stopped or taken a moment to even correct, because that's not why we're there. You just learn to move on from that topic.
That's right. And it's also just quite intimidating to correct a judicial officer, right?
Absolutely. And it's always in the back of your mind as well, if I do interfere, is that going to now play on their mind? Will it affect their ego in some way? And will it lead to a bad outcome? So you just accept it, because you would rather pick your battles. So you pick a different battle.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you say your surname? I'm assuming it's Sonia for your first name.
Yes, Sonia.
Okay, I got that one right.
Yes, you did.
How do you say your surname?
So my surname, so I have actually adopted, and I feel like a bit of an imposter having done this. I adapted the way I pronounced my own surname and anglicized it myself when I got into the court space, because when you go in, so the first thing as a criminal lawyer that I had to learn to do was put in my appearance. And when I approached registry, I didn't want to, again, I think in the back of my mind, I didn't want to have the conversation around explaining how to pronounce it and then have multiple conversations correcting it. So I just anglicized it myself in my brain. I also like the sound of saying Sawant, like it sounds fancy in my head. I'm probably making that up. So I went with Sawant and I said that to registry and they went with it. And then I liked the sound of it when they page you in the court system, it goes through the whole building. So when they pronounce Miss Sawant to courtroom 3, I like the sound of that. So I was like, I'm sticking with it now. But the traditional way to say it, and when I meet people who've got Indian ancestry, for example, definitely people who come from India, they are a bit taken aback when they hear, what is Sawant? What is that? Because that's not how you say it.
You don't know how to say your own name.
I come from Mumbai. No, exactly. No, they judge me for it. Who are you? So say it as Savant. So that's how you pronounce my surname. Savant. Yes.
Savant. Almost like the W is almost like a very soft V.
Correct. And the T is a TH sound rather than a T. Yeah.
I can understand why you adopted the fancier pronunciation, as you put it. Because I could just imagine being paged over court and every permutation with, oh no, she says it's with a V. No, it's with a TH. It's both, actually.
That's right. That's
away we go. And so then you said your cultural background, India. Is Sonia the first name that your parents gave you?
Yes. So interesting story and fun fact is my sister, actually, she's 8 years older than me. She was the one who chose my name. And this is the story I've been told. Obviously, I wasn't around for it, but apparently she knew when my mum was pregnant with me, she knew that it would be a girl. And she had decided that I was going to be called Sonia before I was born. And my parents didn't care enough to decide my name. So they were like, sure, we will name her Sonia if she is a girl. So when I was born, they decided to name me Sonia. So I'm grateful to my sister for giving me an anglicized name. But it's interesting because I've had this question come up, and it's a slight segue from what you've asked as well, is I sometimes get the opposite effect of when I'm introducing myself and I introduce my name. People here expect to have a story behind it, and they're like, is Sonia your real name? Because they expect me, because of the way I look, they expect me to have an original name, which I have decided to not pursue. And I've made up Sonia because people can pronounce it. Yep. And then I have to tell everyone this story. So I have a story fatigue because I constantly tell them, no, Sonia is my name. And then they start to get weirdly curious and they're like, is Sonia a common Indian name? And it's like, yes, maybe, but I haven't done a thesis on names in India, but I think it is.
So this is actually your sister's fault for choosing your name, but not choosing something just so out there. If she'd chosen, it's going to be a girl and we're going to call her Powerpuff or something.
Oh, yes.
Then everyone would go, that's clearly not your name. Exactly. Tell us the story behind it.
Exactly.
But Sonia's in the nowhere
Sonia is a girl's name. I don't know what they want to hear.
Exactly. So have you ever adopted a nickname, or has anyone ever anointed you with a nickname, perhaps one that you didn't like or didn't agree with?
And you would know this. I'm actually curious to know if you have a nickname as well. So I'll follow up a question later. But for me here, Australians, as you know, they like to shorten words and names for whatever weird reason. And I find that baffling and disrespectful of the English language. Let the word be. So I refuse to call barbecues Barbies because I just don't understand that. Why? Anyway, so my name has been shortened by some of my Caucasian colleagues to be Son. So people do call me Son instead of Sonia, because apparently adding that extra syllable is hard on their tongue for some reason. So I've accepted it. I don't really care. You can refer to me. I will respond to Son as well. Not everyone does it, and very few have asked the question, do you prefer a Son? Do you prefer a nickname or not? And I was like, you can choose what you want. I will respond to either, but Sonia is my name.
And you prefer Sonia?
Yes, with an I. Yes.
With an I, of course. Spell it correctly, please.
Right. So, do you have a nickname?
Yes and no. On a previous episode,
Yep.
I spoke about growing up in Brisbane and
Yep.
some kids giving me a nickname. My full name is Baba Sheln, and some kids used to tease me and call me Hubba Bubba, like the chewing gum.
Oh my God.
I have a couple of, much like you, in an office setting as well. Australians
Yes.
love an abbreviation, or
Yes.
weirdly, if the name is short, they will, and I do this myself, there will
Yes.
be an extension of it. So it's not just Sheln, it's, hey, Shelnikins, can you do X, Y, and Z? Or
Yep.
Shelnstar, can you do X, Y, and
Oh, of
Z?
course. Yes. Yes.
And
Yep.
it's obviously it's a term of endearment, right? Just it's almost like a diminutive form
Mm.
of extending the name to show closeness. But I don't
Yeah.
introduce myself in work or social settings with any particular nickname. Sheln is difficult enough for people to get their minds around. So I'm hardly going to spend the 3
That's right.
years
Yeah.
schooling them on how to say it. And by the way, I prefer to go by this. Now
Yes.
that you know how to say my name right,
Yep.
forget all of that. This
That's
is
right.
what I'd
Now
like
add
you
a
to call me.
Shonster.
Now it's Shelnikins. From now
Yep.
on,
Yep.
Shelnikins. Yeah. No, it's just Sheln. A little bit like you as well. When I
Mm.
meet people from my background, both my parents are Nigerian,
Mm.
Nigerian people tend to look at me, cocked eyebrow. You don't know
Yeah.
how to say your own name. I do. It's just for an Australian accent. I've
That's right.
adopted Sheln because
That's
otherwise
right.
we'll be here all
Yep.
day
Oh my God.
just
Yes.
trying to get it right.
Yep.
So that's my story. So Sonia, how did you get into law?
So law, that was random. So much like my other major decisions in my life, I tend to just make them randomly. They're just random selections. There's no thought process, which sounds terrible, but I see it as being very aligned with what the universe wants for me, and I just tend to
Whimsical.
pick. I'm very aligned with the cosmos out there. I read books. I enjoy my reading time, and I started reading as very young. So when I was a newly formed teenager, I read a book about two twin sisters who went to boarding school. And I was fascinated by their experiences, and it seemed very fun. And then they would just come home for Christmas and celebrate, have quality time with family. So this is a good life. I would like to experience this. Nothing to say that I didn't enjoy time with family, but I wanted to experience more in life as well. So I told my sister first, and I said, look, this is an interesting concept. And I think I was like 14 or 15 at the time. And for some reason, she was like, yep, let's talk to her parents about this. So we spoke to mum and then spoke to dad as well. And surprisingly, they were on board with the concept of supporting me to further my education in a boarding school space. So they picked Melbourne, so I had no choice, and I don't think I really put my foot down in terms of where I go. I just wanted to experience boarding school. So they picked Melbourne because dad had like a remote contact at the time in Melbourne. So he felt he had some sort of a connection and he could find me if needed. So that they picked that. And then Monash University was something that we decided I would pursue, and then they started processing visa, but obviously I had to pick a degree to study. And then I remember sitting there with the Monash prospectus and just flipping the pages and having no thought. Nothing was really calling out to me. And then I reached the arts section, but they also had arts. It starts off in the arts section with the double degree combinations and then individual arts degrees as well. So I stopped at the double degree section for some reason. I didn't read beyond that. And I saw Bachelor of Arts in International Studies / laws. So a double degree. I will do that one.
One, please.
I put no thought into laws. I was attracted with the international studies, so I was definitely on the path of picking arts as a degree. And then when I started my course at Monash, I also minored in Italian. So arts was something that I was more attracted to. But as soon as I started studying the law units, I fell in love. Like I really enjoyed what I was learning and studying. And when I started and got my first job and started working, it felt like the glove fit. Like it really felt like I'd found my place and found the right calling. So I am very grateful for whatever was happening to me at the time when I was flipping the prospectus that I stopped on that degree.
It all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
That's amazing. And a lot of people, some people find their way into law and it's a calling. They always knew they were going to be a lawyer. My father was a lawyer. My father's father was a lawyer. And some people just by happenstance stumble into it and love it and just naturally have an affinity for it. And both halves can exist quite happily and healthfully in the industry. Going back to something you said at the start, you said
Mm,
that it's a lot better now, and there are practice notes, and the
mm,
court systems are really making an effort to embrace
mm.
and demonstrate that Australia
Yes.
is a genuine multicultural society, and taking the effort to, this is how you ask someone how to pronounce their name or spell it or whatnot. Have you noticed anything else in terms of improvements? I'm curious about younger diverse lawyers. I'm wondering if they have the same
Mm.
hesitation that perhaps you or I did with correcting people, or
Yeah.
are they more forthright about it in
Yes.
your observation?
Yes. Yes. I think they're definitely, and this makes me realize I'm getting really older, because when I look at the courage that the new generation have, and they're very clear and not just in the court setting, but even to their employers. You would probably be able to relate to this as well, because we came into the workforce in a very different time where respect of authority, and you were just grateful to have an opportunity, so you wouldn't speak up at all. I don't see that fear. I don't see that hesitation, which I love, and I'm really glad to
Mm,
see that people are open and courageous to question authority, or just put their foot down and say, this is what I'm standing for, and you need to meet me where I am. So I see that a
mm,
lot in the new generation. They're not hesitant in terms of correcting people. They don't seem to be fatigued as much as I feel like I was, like constantly having
mm.
to tell people, this is how you say it, or this is what I am talking about. The younger generation seem to be happy to keep educating as many times as it takes. And I like that sometimes I see that, but they come to it with some attitude as well. I have to tell you this again. And it makes you feel like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of judgment. So I think the older generation are not used to that. So when they see that, it's a
Yeah,
bit confronting. So they do go back into their shell and accept it and apologize. So
yeah.
I'm glad to see that shifting. So yeah, there is a lot more courage in the new generation for sure.
Me too. I've noticed that as well, and I think it's great, like you. And I think it's
Yep.
indicative of there needs to be both sides doing some of the work. It can't all
Yes,
fall on one person constantly having to correct,
absolutely.
and the eye rolls and that sort of Australian humor of, oh
Mm,
gosh, this is so
mm,
hard. Why can't you have a
yes,
normal name? Ha ha.
exactly.
There's a little bit of the court system doing some of
Yep.
the heavy lifting. We're making effort, and then
Yes.
we still have our part to play as
Yes.
well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, look, thanks so much for listening today. And thank you very much for joining us, Sonia. As always, a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like I could speak to you for another hour or so. Maybe we'll get you on another episode in the future.
Absolutely.
Please get in touch with us if you have any questions, or if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of What's in a Name. You can find our details on our website, which is houlandwilcox.com.au, or connect with us on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please rate, review, or subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is not legal advice and should not be relied upon as such. You should always obtain legal advice about your specific circumstances.